Chat. Got it. You got to join. Thank you.
I know.
It took me a while. Okay. Also share tab. Pitch-a-Thon. Share. Zoom. Okay. So the StreamYard. This is Zoom. Multi-speaker view. Okay. Okay, here we go. You can admit them. Hello, welcome. Welcome to Pitch-a-Thon Part 2. Thanks for joining us. I see familiar faces. You can say hello in the chat. Since you're rejoining, share what it is that has been your biggest takeaway so far. I'd love to hear it.
Oh, there were so many points. Oh my goodness. Me as a new nonprofit, just like everything, the way you say the things, the way you transition, the transitional words you use, the I wasn't expecting you to be so nice. So you're dealing, I figure you're dealing with these mega multi-million-dollar donation things, and I figured you'd be more like I don't know, different, stricter. Bad thoughts in my
Aw.
mind, but you're just so nice and so encouraging. It makes me want to just go out there and go today and go talk to people. So
Oh,
thank
I'm
you.
so glad. Thank you.
And oh, one more thing. Ordóñez, my husband's family, their second last name is Ordóñez. I'm like sitting here saying Ordóñez. Oh wow, I know that
Nice.
name.
Yes, I love it. That's great. Fellow Ordóñez in the house. Thank you for sharing, Denise. What are your other takeaways? You can unmute if you'd like. I ask that you be concise, or you can share in the comments. What are your other takeaways? Learning so far, things that you've noticed.
I think I forget about the why me? Why are you asking this person for this particular gift? And
Yeah.
big reminder.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's pretty typical. That's why I do what I do. It's pretty common. Yeah. Any other takeaways? Never assume. I like that. That's great. Awesome. Well, let us get started. So, if let's see, Bridget, I believe you're up first. Um, we can do a couple of questions if you want a minute, or do you want to jump in now?
I'm ready. I have a little background about this guy I can share. So,
Great. So first, just introduce yourself, share your
sure.
name and your title and your organization, and just a brief description of what your organization does. And then you can give us your context on your donor and go for it.
Okay. I'm Bridget Tharp. I'm Development Director for Columbus Speech and Hearing. So we're based in Central Ohio. We have been around 100 years, and we started out as a community of deaf and hard of hearing people who wanted to create job opportunities for themselves and their friends. And now, 100 years later, we have sign language classes, support services for the deaf blind, a speech language pathology program that mostly serves kids, and audiology that's 70% seniors, 30% kids. And in the state of Ohio, there's no rule that insurance has to cover pediatric hearing aids. So most of these families are paying right out of pocket. So
Mm.
so there's definitely a lot of financial need component in what we do. So my pitch, so I'm a year and a half into this job. We had a wealth screening tool, which we identified several people who look like they could do a six-figure gift. We haven't asked for six-figure gifts since 2009, which was our last campaign. So that's the direction I'm going. So this is David. One of our board members helped me identify him. On paper, he looks like he has the capacity. He gave me $4,000 last year. Both were unsolicited gifts after conversations with this board member. During our meeting, he told me all his kids are millionaires, so that they're not going to need money from him after he's passed. He is a real estate investor, and he's collected like the historic bricks under the pavement of the buildings that he owns. So he's invested a lot in the history of our city and trying to keep it together. So I'm hoping to call him next week because he's building a big garage, and he's like, let me wait until the project's over so I can know how much money I could possibly give you, because I told him I'd like to make a big ask of you. So, I plan to start, thank you for your first time investment last year. You were one of our top 3 individual donors last year, which is really impressive as a first time donor. I know how passionate you are about this community and that you have lifelong friends here. So I wanted to share with you what we've identified as our largest community need here in Central Ohio, and that's hearing aids for lower income seniors and families. So we serve 8,000 people a year, which he knows. We also have a county grant of 150,000 that gives free screenings and hearing aids for about 100 seniors every year. But we always have a waiting list of people left over that we couldn't get to. So if we were going to clear that waiting list right now, the money ran out this year in August, it would cost us an additional $75,000 to put hearing aids on every other low-income senior that wants them. It's also the third most common chronic health issue in older adults, but can lead to bigger problems, including dementia. So it's something that we feel really passionate about solving. He also, the last conversation we had, we didn't really talk as much about children, but 30% of our audiology clients are children. And we really spend a lot of time helping those families apply for grants to pay for those first hearing aids for those kids. So that really costs us about another 25,000 every year, because the audiologist's time is spent doing that instead of using billable time. So if we were going to solve this problem with you, would you be willing to make a $300,000 pledge over 3 years? That'd be 100,000 for the next 3 years that would meet this need every single year.
All right. Go, Bridget. Give it up for Bridget, y'all. How do you feel? Give yourself feedback. What did you do well?
I think there's probably information overload in here. I could definitely make this a
Hold
little
on. What do you
shorter.
think you did well?
I think connecting him to our history, I did well.
Okay.
You know, I see how many friends and relationships he has in the community, and I know how passionate he is. He wouldn't do the kind of work that he does if he didn't care about preserving our history as a city. So
Yeah.
here's a group of people that we want to preserve and make sure they age really well in town. And if we leave them without hearing aids, they're going to have other health problems really, really quickly. So I think he sees that because he sees his friends in the community not aging as well as he is able to because he has provided for himself and his family really well.
Okay. Great. Anything else that you think you did well?
Um, I think since he's a businessman, he needs the stats. So making sure there's some numbers in there is going to be important for him.
Okay. Great. Crew, y'all want to weigh in the chat? What do you think Bridget did well? What did you notice about her pitch? Anything that stood out to you that you thought went well? Let's hear it. Gave where the money would go and compartmentalized it. Yep. Great. The ask was clear. How much and when? Yep. Great. Anything else you noticed that you thought she did well? Okay. So, Bridget, hi. Okay. So, thank you so much for doing this. And I know that this is, I feel like people are scared. So, I just want to say that kudos to you for actually doing it. Um, you know, it's yeah, it just is a sign of courage. So, I overall feel like it felt rushed, or like, let me just, I got to tell you everything. And I'm like, oh, first you start out, you're like, need Central Ohio. We help old people. Actually, 8,000 people a year. Actually, there's a waiting list. Actually, 30% are children. Actually, this, and I'm like, oh. I thought we were going down here. Now we're going here. And I'm like, oh, where are we going? I'm like, I don't know how it feels for you, Bridget. Do you feel anxious? Are you feeling, what is going on inside of you as you're talking about this? What is your experience?
I think the last person's pitch was really fast. So I thought I should get it done fast because I don't want to take up too much time. But there are a lot of stats in here. So I can definitely get rid of some of them. But yeah, I definitely do feel anxious. It's like, okay, I don't want you to lose
Yeah.
interest before I tell you everything you need to know before you take
Ha. So you're thinking in your head they're going to lose interest.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And why is that?
I don't know. This is like,
Something to explore.
yeah, yeah.
Something to notice. When I'm talking to people, I think they're uninterested. And then what ends up happening as a result of that thought, whether you're right or wrong, is you say a lot of information really fast. Also interesting to notice. And it may have the opposite impact that you hope it will have. You just got to get everything out because, I got to get this over with. You don't care. And if you believe that people don't care, then it'll be really hard to raise money and you'll probably hate your job. Is this resonating?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've talked about David and how You do, when you talk about him specifically, you do say things like, "He does care."
He does care, and he's interesting because he doesn't have a top charity. The last time I met with him, he was going to a charity event for a new charity. He's sort of shopping, right? Like he's shopping for a charity that fits with his values. And I feel like we do, but he's also looking elsewhere. He's not the most loyal, right? As a first-time donor. He got hearing aids from us. He's worked with us for a while. He knows who we are. He lives across the street. Literally, he drives by us every time he leaves his house, but we didn't even know him until last year.
Why do you perceive him to be not loyal?
Well, a lot of donors I meet with will say, I'm also involved in this other charity. This is my other top charity. And he's one
Okay.
where he doesn't really have that. He's still working. He's older, but he's still very focused on business, but he's not a philanthropist with a lot of focus. He doesn't have one thing. He's sort of like
Okay. So
trying,
your perception is loyalty means that you only give to one place.
or that I can predict what you like to give to because you have a type of cause. And I'm not sure that he has a type of cause. He might just be open to any kind of ask.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is that you don't know where you stand with David in terms of where are you in his heart? And your perception is he cares, but maybe. Um, and my suggestion would be to find out. Yeah, find out. Because how long have you been raising major gifts or fundraising and talking with people, building donor relationships, Bridget?
Major gifts for 6 years. I've done fundraising for longer, but a lot of it has been annual giving.
Okay. Do you like doing it?
I do.
Oh, okay. Because I'm not saying that because I don't know. I'm not trying to lead you anywhere. I'm just genuinely curious. Um, because yeah, I felt that you were anxious in your pitch, and my encouragement would be to slow down and just try to talk to the human across from you. Um, it seems like there's a lot of things you're bringing to the conversation that may not be helping you. So, whether that's intentional or not, the assumption that he's not loyal, the assumption that he doesn't have a main cause, the assumption that we just don't really know actually. So before you ask him for $100,000 a year for 3 years, I would find out where you stand with him. If someone gives $4,000 unsolicited, that's great. I mean, I don't think that that's a sign that I don't think that's a bad thing. So I would confirm his passion for what you're doing. It's also an indicator when you start talking about how you help elderly people, but then you also talk about how you help children. And it's kind of like all over the place because you may not really know David very well.
Well, in my head, I want to get to that number. I want it to be a nice round 6-figure ask because the gap is 75. And it's like, well, I want to stick with audiology because that's kind of what he understands. But it'd be harder to justify 6 figures just for the senior program.
Yeah. So you raise restricted funding is what you do?
We do, we can do unrestricted as well, but I lead our development team and grants is often restricted. Um, our grant writer does a lot of that, but I've been building our annual giving program for the last year, but now major gifts needs to be more of a priority. So I've been trying to identify those people And most of them we haven't had conversations with before. So I don't want to wait too long to make an ask. I might only get one visit with them. So I want to make it count, but I also don't want to pull the trigger too soon. So this guy, I met him last year, but now enough time has passed that it's like, okay, it's probably time to have a real conversation about a meaningful gift that make a big impact for us.
Mm-hmm. Do you know why he gives? Has he told you?
Not really. When he talked to our board member, he hadn't made the connection that we were a nonprofit, but he had a good experience with us. So once he learned that we were a nonprofit, then he wrote a check, and then he wrote another check.
Huh. Yeah, I think that there's just some relationship building that needs to happen a bit before asking for this amount. I mean, I don't know his capacity. I mean, I know he's talked to you about his wealthy kids. I I would confirm, he knows that a big gift a big ask is coming, which I think is cool, and that's great that you've prepped him. In terms of this pitch and my feedback, um, the way that you can focus it and narrow it down and hone it in is by thinking about who you're sitting across from in your audience, right? And less about what your organization needs, which I think is it's not intuitive, right? It's almost like paradoxical. Like, of course, I'm thinking about what my organization needs. Um, but thinking about the way in which this particular person has an opportunity to have an impact that happens to match perfectly with what your organization needs. So I don't think it's bad if you want to talk about how you help seniors and how you help children. That's great. I would just try to be more succinct about that. If you wanted to say, we help 10,000 people a year, 30% are kids. Next year, we want to help 12,000. That's an example. Sharing a story and connecting it to him. The fact that he has been a recipient is awesome. So you could say, you know better than most what we do because you benefited from that. And we want to do that for 12,000 people in central Ohio. And then you named this earlier and you're spot on. Why him? And it can't just be because you've got to raise this money and he's rich. Right? So why him in terms of what you see in him and his characteristics? It seems like this really matters to you. It seems like you really care about audiology, whatever it is that's specific to him, things that he's said that you could repeat back. I've heard you say in our previous meeting, blah, blah, blah. That's why I'm coming to you and asking you to consider giving X.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, and my recommendation would be, Bridget, to just be more of yourself. It's really, maybe it's just because it's just this pitch practice. Maybe that could be. And you're probably, when you're with the donor, it's a totally different thing. That could totally be. You're so professional and very business, and this is probably very personal for you. There's probably a reason why you do this. So I would be transparent about that. And just try to connect with the person and who they are. It's hard to do, but donors feel when we're just all about the money. Look, I got these goals. Okay, are you going to give or what? And it's like kind of stinks. So, just try to connect with them. And whether they give or not, you'll hit your goals. You've got donors. You're going to get the meetings. You're going to get it done. Is this helpful, Bridget? What are your thoughts?
It is helpful. My connection to our mission is more on the kid side. So it's not a perfect path back to him and what I'd be asking him for. But I have foster kids and they've all needed speech services, and there's a connection to literacy. But since the pandemic, kids fail hearing and speech screenings more often in our community. So something happened. It's more of a crisis than it has been before.
Yeah, that's understandable. That's really powerful that you have that firsthand experience. I don't think it needs to be anything than what it is. What matters more is the authenticity. Yeah. Because then you're like connecting heart to heart with somebody.
Yeah.
And if you go first, he'll likely open up and share why for him. Any other questions?
I think I'm good. I mean, we have this list of people and not everyone's going to meet with me. Not everyone's going to talk to me. I think we're at a point where we kind of widen our list, ask for introductions from board members, because it does make a difference to get in there with this guy. Having a board connection is really huge. It's kind of warmer. It's a warmer conversation.
Totally. That's great. Yeah, and a huge plus that he knows that an ask is coming. I always I don't want to blindside people, so I think that's really smart. You feel supported, Bridget? Is there any way else that I can help you?
I think I'm good for now. I would love to do Courage Lab at some point. I've been listening to your podcast.
Oh, great. Thanks. I'm so glad. Awesome. Well, give it up for Bridget, everybody. Love it. Thank you so much. Next up, we got TJ.
Hey y'all again.
How you doing?
I have no idea. I mean, I talk for a living, so I don't know why I'm even nervous about this. I think because I totally over prepared. I had a whole presentation, but I'm like, oh, this is what
Move
we're doing.
in Day Mafia.
Yes.
Oh, somebody.
JJ Mercer, TJ.
We'll keep it one person talking at a time. TJ, you go ahead.
So yes, I am TJ Mercer. I am the founder of Move In Day Mafia, and we provide dorm room makeovers and monthly care packages for students at HBCUs, which are historically Black colleges and universities. We provide care packages and we move them in and take care of them for 4 years, basically. And I'm totally new to the nonprofit space. My background is TV. I've worked in Hollywood for over 25 years on some of the biggest TV shows and films. And so this is all very new to me. But we just turned 2 in August. We have done amazeballs. I am blown away by what has happened. I think I'm nervous of this conversation is because we've done so well in the corporate space. And so I've never pitched even in corporate. They've come looking for us. And to my point, I do this for a living, I talk. And so even just Tuesday, I met a woman at an event and she turns out she's a decision maker at Wells Fargo, and she pledged $38,000 to us to take care of.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Congrats.
So, yeah. And, and that's happened with Amazon 2 weeks ago. came to us and gave us 10,000. So, you know, I'm having conversations about it, but this is the first time I've been strategic and want to learn how to position the conversations for major donors. And the last thing I want to say as a backstory is Sherry Shepherd, the talk show host. She used to be on The View. Now she has her own Emmy-winning talk show. And
Mhm.
she's a big cheerleader of ours. She played Celebrity Jeopardy for us. And as a result, we got
Nice.
30,000. And
Nice.
so the donors I want to talk to, because after that appearance, Julie, we started getting $1,000 checks, $5,000 checks in the mail.
Mm.
Like nobody was calling to ask to have a conversation. Nobody was vetting us. And
Mhm.
so in my mind, and I could be wrong, when you're just sending $5,000 checks, that means that's could be your petty cash, you know, that there was no
Mhm.
hoops we had to jump through. And so one of the things I want to do is reach out to those donors and have a conversation with them because
Mm.
I don't necessarily know that they came from Celebrity Jeopardy. We started getting checks when we were featured on CNN. So I want to have those kind of conversations. And I think that's the profile of my donor for this purpose.
Great. So you'll give us do you have a specific donor scenario in mind?
Someone who has never met me, maybe that they saw us on CNN or they saw us on Celebrity Jeopardy, but you know, and they would just move to give, but they don't necessarily really know us. So I yeah, so kind of a cold call that they've donated, but they don't know me or the organization necessarily.
Okay, and you're gonna ask this person for money?
Yes.
Okay. So give us just a brief synopsis of, you know, who they are, use an alias,
Okay.
what you know about them, what their previous giving was, and then whenever you're ready, you can launch it off into your pitch.
Okay, so my alias's name is Julie. To make it easy. And they were a donor that sent 5K to us without having a conversation about us.
Mm,
Okay.
okay.
All right. Hey, Julie.
Hey.
So, first of all, let me just say thank you. Thank you for your generous donation. And one of the things I wanted to do is just meet you and want to let you know a little bit more about me and the mafia. And the first thing I would say is I walk in miracles. And being on the phone with you actually is a perfect example of walking in miracles because we got a check from you. And I wanted to know, first of all, how did you hear about us? Where did you read about us or hear about us? Because I know we've done a lot of media. Uh,
I saw you on a CNN feature and I thought, wow, what amazing work they're doing. And I just wanted to support.
Oh, awesome. I love that. Now, do you have a connection to a foster care or did you come out of foster care? What really drew you to our mission?
Nothing personal, not my personal story, TJ,
Mhm.
but some of my friends have fostered
Ah,
and I've just seen the inside of the system and it's so broken and these
yeah.
kids just don't have the support they need. It's a huge need.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
just I see what you're doing and I think it's beautiful.
Are there other causes that are really, really dear to your heart? Because, you know, I'm going to keep it 100 with you, Julie. My goal is to become your favorite. So, are there other causes that are dear to you?
Yeah, I have a few. I give to my church. I give
Okay.
to an education organization. I been giving to a few different nonprofits that are international NGOs that are meeting
Okay.
basic needs for folks.
Okay. Okay. Well, let me just, you know, share how I ended up in this space. I learned that 70% of kids in foster care actually dream of going to college, and yet only 3% go. and 1% graduate. In fact, the reason why I started Mafia is because I met a young lady who, when she went to her HBCU, she was driven to campus by her social worker. She had aged out of the system. Her social worker just dropped her off and left her. Well, I'm a graduate of the Howard University, and that was so not my move-in experience. And I was brokenhearted at hearing her story. And so I decided to do something about it because apparently she is a part of that 3% who beat the odds to go. And so for us, I want to make sure that these kids are not struggling with deodorant. They're not struggling with detergent. They're not struggling with toothpaste, things that we take for granted. Did you, if you don't mind me asking, did you go to college? Have you experienced a move-in day?
I did go to college. I went to TCU. Go Frogs.
Okay, so when you moved in, did you move in with family
Yeah,
and
I moved in. My parents helped me.
yeah, so you know what it's like to arrive with a whole family doting on you. They picked out your colors and your room and everything.
We
But
went to Target.
exactly, but you had some kind of coordination of someone helping you.
That's right.
Our scholars don't have that. Oftentimes, they show up with maybe a suitcase. I had one scholar who showed up with his backpack. And so for us, we have to do something about it because at Mafia, we want to increase that ratio of 1% graduating. And so, like I said, we've only done this for 2 years. We've had 3 move-in days. Our first year, we started off with 13 students at one HBCU. We doubled last year and moved in 31 students at 5 HBCUs. And this past August, we moved in 40 scholars because of your generosity, 40 scholars at 19 HBCUs. We started off with 17,000 our first year. Second year, we raised 150,000. And this year, we're at 160,000. And the year is not over. Our volunteers, we've gone from 13 volunteers our first year. Second year, we had a database of 300 volunteers. And this year, 1,000 volunteers signed up to help us get these kids moved in. So it's becoming a movement. And I want to know, will you help us demolish the foster care to prison pipeline and build a foster care to HBCU graduate pipeline? And the last thing I want to tell you as far as what our goals are, the goal is $260,000 to move in kids in 2025. We want to move in 52 scholars in 2025. But leaning on my Hollywood experience, I'm also turning Move-In Day Mafia into a dorm room makeover show. So we need another 100,000 to go ahead and get that show edited and do the marketing around it. I actually won an Emmy for this type of show, so I really know what I'm doing. And so we need your help, and I want to be able to align with you to walk in even more miracles. Does any of that resonate with you?
Wow. I'm going to end the role play there.
Good. That I was done.
Awesome. Give it up for TJ, everybody. Love it. You did it. Brilliant. TJ, give yourself feedback. What do you think you did well?
What I did well is people, it don't take much to know I love what I'm doing. It doesn't take much to tell that I am excited about the movement and the mission of Mafia. I think that comes across really, really well. Another thing that I'm gifted at is getting people on board, for the mission in some kind of way, whether that's monetary or volunteer perspective. So I know that's what I'm automatically good at. So yeah, it's in the numbers of, I've sold this thing, with multi-billion-dollar companies at this point. So I know I do that part well.
Yes. With your specific pitch, is there anything that you think this was good? this part was good?
Um, I would like to think I painted the picture that even if you haven't, you know, you've seen a move-in day, you kind of know. And I would like to think that I painted the picture of the emotion that goes along and imagining, these kids they have to fend for themselves. So I think I nailed that part of the narrative.
Mm. Yeah, great. So good. What would you do differently?
One of the things that if I wasn't in my head and, what I normally do when I'm just kind of relaxed and not presenting this as for feedback is I take people back to the day that I had a scholar who had spent her whole life in foster care. And she has 9 siblings, and her dream was to find her siblings. And when we revealed her room, she loved the room because all of our rooms are professionally designed. And she loved the room, but the tears started when I showed her we had bought her a whole Costco-sized box of her favorite maxi pads, things that we take for granted.
Mm.
I would have probably added the story about our scholar who was living in her car. And when we showed her room, her first response was, I got a rug. I've never had a rug. So I probably would have
Mm.
inserted, where the kids started and what they're doing now. But I would also think, as it comes naturally in a conversation, it would have come up later as I'm
Mm.
engaging in dialogue with
Mhm.
the potential donor.
Yeah, got it. Great. Okay, y'all, in the chat, what did you love about TJ's pitch? What did you learn? What do you think TJ did well? What did you notice? Put it in the chat. Let's hear your feedback. Her energy, passion is infectious, authenticity, energy, thanking first. Mm. Great energy, moved right into what she truly wants. She makes it personal. Great. Great. Okay. So, um, I loved it. You started out with, I liked how it was conversational. And I think that's so smart. Um, you said 70% dream of college, 3% go, 1% graduate.
Mhm.
I was like, whoa. Brilliant. Then you said, did you go to college?
Mhm.
I love how you said, how'd you find us? Do you know somebody who's personally? These are great questions. Brilliant.
Mhm.
You took me back to my own experience, right? Made it personal. Hey, our scholars don't have that. I agree. I would have loved to have heard the story of the young person with, 9 siblings who is never had a rug before, and yeah, I think inserting those, and you're a storyteller. That's what you do. So I'm like, if that's your thing, let it fly.
Mhm.
You know, that's what you're so strong at. So, um, I I was a lit. So your goal, you said, was 60K for
No,
2025.
no, 260K
Ah, okay,
for 2025 to move in 52 scholars.
got it. Um,
And then I added 100K to for the TV show.
yeah, and I don't know if donors feel this way or if this has been your experience, TJ,
Mhm.
but my thinking was like, is that all? Like, is
Really?
that really all it costs?
Okay.
I
There you
was
go
like,
yelling. Why you yelling, Julie? You trying to get in? Is that ain't asking
I
big enough? Okay.
I was like, oh, that's not that
Mhm,
expensive to,
mhm,
and I could see obviously the clear impact, right? I can see how you're talking about how we walk with them for 4 years. That's really beautiful. And, telling these stories, it could be great to tell the story of, we've been, they get a rug for the first time, and then what happens?
mhm.
Right? So where, 2 years down the road, now they're the junior. Now are you having your first graduates?
Well, are you asking for me to answer, or you this is oh, okay. So because we took in a rising senior last year, the baby that I told you about. We took her in as a rising senior. She did graduate and she's now in a master's program.
Wow. So what you're doing is working, right?
Yeah.
And so that story, even just how you said it, putting that in, it's like, "Oh, I get it."
Mhm.
Um and then saying it costs us only $260,000 to walk with 52 scholars who don't
For the
have,
first oh, okay, so for when you say is that it, I got what you're saying. For the first year, that
right,
covered
a year.
1 year. Okay,
Yep.
okay,
Yep. That was great. And I like how you said in 2025, this is what we want to do.
okay.
Um, then you went into, and also we want to do a dorm room makeover show, and that's going to cost $100,000. And then you kept going, and then you're like, is any of this resonating with you?
Mhm.
So I think um maybe a different order might be helpful.
Okay,
Like, hey, let me tell you about our vision. Can I share? And you could even ask for permission, right?
okay.
Hey, Julie, could I share our vision for the future with you? Are you interested in hearing about it? They'll be like, yeah, of course. Right. But it's just a way to check in. And then you can say, next year, we want to support 52 scholars. That's going to cost us $260,000. And I'm also launching a dorm room makeover show. I'm uniquely positioned for this because I'm an Emmy winning, filmmaker,
Mhm,
TV editor,
mhm.
and it's going to cost us $100,000. And here's why we're doing that.
Okay,
And then take a pause.
okay.
And then here, I like the question, is any of this what resonates with you?
Mhm.
And then you can hear it, right? And then, let's say Julie is like, wow, that's amazing. I love it. What do you need, TJ?
Mhm, mhm.
Or whatever they're going to say. There's any number of things they could say. Then I think you can say, well, knowing what our goals are for 2025, we need to raise a total of 360,000. Knowing that that's our largest need right now is financial support. What would you be willing to give towards that goal?
That's it. Okay, okay. What would you okay, got you.
Because somebody gave 5K. We don't really know. I was like, what would they be willing to donate? I don't know.
Right, right.
Let's say that they come back and say, "Oh, I mean, I'm not really sure." Like, and you can kind of see that they need some more guidance.
Mhm.
You could respond and say, what most folks do is they give whatever, right? So people who are executives, um, who have been financially supporting us give anywhere from 10 to 25K a year. That's kind of
Mhm,
what we're seeing.
mhm.
You could do that.
Okay,
You
okay.
could, you could say, what's a reasonable range for you personally? That's another thing you could say,
Mhm.
because you're still kind of getting to know this person, but they've already donated to you. So you
Right.
could kind of put it in their court. But now that they know that the total goal is 360, that's a really great baseline. If
Okay,
you know how much you've already raised towards the 360, then that would also be great to know.
okay,
Right?
okay,
We need to raise 360. We've already got 110.
okay.
or whatever that number is.
Okay. Okay.
Because you could have somebody say, oh, well, I'll just give you the rest.
Okay. We want that for
Why
sure.
not?
Yep.
I could do it.
I started the conversation with I walk in miracles. So
That's
there you
right.
go.
And you said, and I love it. And
Mhm.
that's your thing, you know? So you leave room for that. That goes with your whole brand.
Right. Right.
Right? So I mean, yes, your passion is contagious. I actually wanted to know more about you. I love that you are asking really great questions about the
Mhm.
donor. And I wanted to know, what is your why? Why did you leave TV and the successful career to come over here and start Moving Day Mafia? What was the turning point in that story of, I've had enough? I'm not going to sit on the sidelines and see this problem get worse and worse, and nobody's going to do anything about it. Like, what was that turning point? I wanted to even know that story for you. And I
Okay.
imagine that your donors would really connect with that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I had a meeting with the Department of Labor, and it was supposed to be for 15 minutes. And because of that reason, they wanted to know more. It ended up being an hour-long meeting.
Uh-huh. That's
So
great.
that's why I think, part of the things that you're saying to me, that I will organically bring it back around. Because for me, it's all about the kids. So everything that comes out my mouth, I'm gonna circle it right back around to, this is why we do what we do. And then let me ask your opinion of this. We're getting ready to launch, and I don't know if I should say these to the donors, but there's a running joke in my, social media community and my team that I will, have nighttime sets at the local strip club to make sure the kids are taken care of. So we're launching what we're calling a Keep TJ Off the Pole campaign. And so typically that has gone over, very well in the corporate space because they've come to me, right? And so, they're gonna get full TJ. This is who I am in my regular
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And so, but I'm like, I'm not sure how that's gonna go over, if I'm pitching someone who saw us on Celebrity Jeopardy or something.
Yeah. And I think your questions are really great. Like, what resonates with you? How did you hear about us? Are you personally connected to anyone who's experienced the foster care system?
Mm.
These questions I think are really great for that. Even
Okay.
in a corporate setting, like
Mhm.
and perhaps it's with the companies, how do you decide which charities to get involved with?
Mm.
Questions like that might help you.
Okay.
Um,
Excellent.
yeah, I think it's great.
Okay.
I think you're really great at storytelling, at connecting with people. You're great at being authentic, and don't ever lose that.
Okay.
One
Cool.
of your greatest strengths is that you show up the same in every environment that you're in. And people are going to want you to change, and they're wrong.
Okay.
They're going to want you to fit into a better mold, and I'm telling you that that is your strength. That's your superpower. You continue to be you no matter the environment. That's called integrity. People
Mhm.
just don't recognize it anymore because they don't have it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we're told that professionalism, right? We got to be professional and we got to be somebody else, somebody that we're not.
Mhm.
And what's so awesome, and I think why people are drawn to you, TJ, and why I know you're going to be successful and you're going to continue to attract miracles is because you are you.
Facts. You always gonna get this.
Right.
So yeah. Okay.
And it's so strong.
Mhm.
It's so great. So I think that's what makes you magnetic.
Mhm. I receive that.
It's awesome. Great job.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Yes.
you. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you. Thank you so much. Um, So let's see. What questions have we got? We'll do some Q&A. Any questions? Bridget says, I want to be your favorite charity. I love that. What's up, Matt? What questions you got? Oh, okay. Thanks. Any other questions? Anybody? How can I help you? How can I support you? Or anybody else want to go and do your pitch? You can just quickly register and you'll be up. There's the link. The link is in the chat. How can I help? Yeah. I love hearing the pitches too. It's great. No questions at all, y'all? Any questions? How can I support you?
I have a question. I didn't use a question mark in the chat, but we're getting ready for year end, obviously, and typically we see people give more when we have a specific, like, here's where your money goes kind of thing. Is that the best way to get somebody to increase their giving to $1,000? I mean, what, I don't know, like, are there some messages that have worked in the past? I think a lot of our donors just don't know what we'll do with more, and they're gonna give, they have a certain number in mind and they just write a check. But last year I added a giving amount to our letter that we sent out.
Okay. And do you have goals impact goals tied to your fundraising goals?
I don't think that there's stuff that we're not gonna do more of if we don't hit our goals, because we're such a new team. We don't really have that set up, but that's really interesting. So the organizations that do that, they do what does that look like?
Yeah. So, what I see work really well for my clients and what's worked well for me is if we have a multi year strategic plan of, over the course of the next 3 years, let's say, we have this big, hairy, audacious goal of wanting to house 1 million people or whatever it is. And that there are obviously fundraising goals each year that we need to raise, right? There's a budget, we got to raise the money. So it's simply framing we need to house 1 million people by 2030, and it's going to cost us this much money to do that. You could break that down into annual, right? So if you know what your goal is, you're probably going to need to raise more money next year. And why is that? Because your impact is going to grow. Either you're serving more people or you're serving the same amount of people in a more holistic way. Whatever it is, you're increasing your impact typically as a result of needing to raise more money. And so just communicating that. simply answering, why do you need more money than you already got? Right? And it's usually because there's an impact goal associated with that. When folks don't have clear strategic plan, clear goals, they will struggle to raise more money. Because if you don't even know internally why you're raising more money, then how will your donors know? And organizations that don't have vision for the future, they don't have a plan for the future, will struggle. And they don't know it, but they're slowly dying. And part of raising more money is drawing a line in the sand and saying, this is the projected impact that we are going to create. This is what we are setting out to do, and it's measurable and it's time bound. And communicating that to donors. When there's a lack of that clarity and a lack of that vision, what ends up happening is we talk about our output. We talk about how many, we talk about our internal goals. We talk about, we did this many hours of service. We're hiring more people. We're expanding this new program. And it ultimately doesn't really matter. Because like, who cares? It's like I'm doing this to help people. Are you helping more people? Or like, how are you helping them more holistically? Like, whether you open a new program or not, kind of doesn't matter to me. Good on you. You can do whatever you want. You're the one doing this thing. You're the expert. You can do it every which way you want. Right? It's like being able to articulate what is that money going to get done. You don't need to say $1,000 serves 2.5 people. You could, but I don't think that a lot of donors think like that. They're not waking up thinking, man, if I could help 2.5 people today, that'd be great. It's like, right? It's like, no, I want to be able to support a team who's doing great work, and they have a vision and they have a plan and they know what they're doing. And there's a track record that they are actually effective at that thing. Right? So I just tie it back to, here's our strategic plan and what we're setting out to accomplish as an organization in the coming years. And here's how much money that's going to take. And they're like, oh, I get it. Yeah. Last year you helped 10,000 people. Next year you want to help 11,000. It makes sense that you would need more money to do that. Is that helpful, Bridget?
Yes.
Great. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Great question. I feel like so many people, need to hear that and can, relate. Very similar situation. Denise says, you said in part 1 that you realized that you jumped the gun to your donor. How do you recover from that? Great question. So with that particular donor, I had asked for $200K and he had said, yeah, it's too soon. And it was a dialogue. It was like, okay, if it's too soon, like, what's the right timing? And he kind of he's so mature and so kind. He just handled it really well. And he kind of led me through what he needed, what other experiences, what other things needed to happen for him to even consider giving at that level. So it was a dialogue. And I sat in that moment and just listened. And he was like, yeah, like, we've only just gotten connected like 6-9 months ago. I think he had given like $20K previously. And he was like, I think like I want my kids to get involved. I'd really love like for it to be a family thing. I'd love for us to come to this event that you have in December. Like I'd love to meet more people on the team. And part of that is when you ask, you learn. You don't necessarily get a yes. And that allows you to take that learning moving forward and get better and improve and take better care of that donor in particular. So it's not necessarily a failure. Sometimes we can't possibly know. We have to move forward with the information that we have. Some of us just want all the information before we move forward, and that would be nice, but that's not life. And sometimes you just got to ask and find out. So, recovering again is about asking for feedback. Okay, when would be good timing? What else needs to happen so that you can feel like we're in a great place and it makes sense for you to give that level of a gift? And asking the question. And what I see so many fundraisers and leaders do is they hit an awkward moment with someone and then they run away, never to talk to them again. Because it's awkward. We're like, oh, I gotta avoid this person. Oh my gosh. Ah. And then we're obsessed with new donors. And it's like, not all is lost, right? You can recover from this. It's okay. We can't expect perfection. We can't expect flawless execution. We're going to expect that we're going to fail. We're going to get it wrong sometimes. Sometimes we're going to get the timing wrong, and it's okay. It's okay. And usually, donors are much more forgiving and understanding than we give them credit for. They're more forgiving with us than we are with ourselves. And it's okay. So, yeah, it can be totally recovered. Great question. Thank you for the great question.
Julie, I have
Questions?
I have another question. You just
Yes.
triggered something. So, about 3 weeks ago, I had a family foundation who saw us on ABC News, I think. And I'm wondering, should I have handled this conversation differently? Because they reached out. I didn't ask for anything really, because I felt like they asked to talk to me to ask more questions. And so I didn't actually make an ask. It was a grandmother started a foundation and for her grandkids to get into philanthropy. And this particular grandkid was hardcore moving day mafia. Should I have made an ask, or do I let this relationship develop? Because she's since reached out to me and asked more clarifying questions, but I did not make an ask.
What was the reason you didn't ask?
I think in my head, I just, it was an information session. They wanted to meet me in order for them to pitch Mafia to the rest of the foundation to make a donation to. And I don't think I made an ask because at the time, Julianne told me to make sure I make an ask. So I just showed up to the call to answer whatever questions they had.
Okay. And what were their questions?
They wanted to know more about me, what drives us, what are the goals, what have we experienced so far. It was both like personal and more about Mafia. They, had curious questions about me. But that pretty much was it. It maybe have lasted like, half an hour of them just collecting data so they can take it back to the rest of the the voting members and decide on whether or not we're going to get the grant.
Gotcha. So you had
And
already
that's
asked
that is
for
the first time I've ever experienced that, where a family foundation wanted to have a conversation with me. So I didn't ask because I didn't know that I should, maybe. I don't know.
but you're saying you had already asked and they were reviewing it, or you're just thinking
No,
that might be what's happening?
she saw us on ABC News, sent an email introducing herself, explaining her family foundation, and would I be willing to have a conversation with her.
Aha. Okay.
I said yes. That was it. I didn't pitch. I had never heard of them until she reached out. It was strictly from ABC News.
Okay. And what did you learn about them in this meeting?
That foundations like this exist. That was the first thing, because I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Um, I learned what I just said. The grandmother is wanting to instill philanthropy into the grandkids. And I learned that this particular grandkid was a big advocate, because the grandmother kept saying all she's been doing is talking about moving day mafia.
Wow.
So grandmother was on the call as well. Grandmother fell in love with me. Um, and I didn't know to ask more questions. I didn't know to ask, what other organizations have you given to? What kind of, I didn't ask anything. It was a one-sided conversation, only in that I was there to let them ask me whatever they wanted to know. I didn't think about it being a dialogue. I think I approached it more of it being a monologue and letting them direct the conversation as they saw fit.
Why
And
is
then-
that, you think?
and I was just getting ready to say, because I know the kind of questions you ask. I think because in the last 2 years, I've experienced so much of that, and I'm a woman of faith. And so I know I draw people to me. And so I didn't look at it that I needed to be proactive, because it's like, if you want to give us money, great. It ain't stopping nothing over here. But yes, we would love to partner with like-minded people who believe in the mission. But I pretty much feel like this is my divine assignment. And so the money always shows up. And so I don't go into these conversations thinking I need to pitch, because I'm just like, I haven't had to pitch. Money just has, kind of shown up. I know that I need to put action into it, which is now why I'm, talking with you, because I want to be more proactive. But in that conversation, I'd had, million-dollar companies asking to meet with me and never meeting them from Adam. So I think it was just a matter of I was accustomed to it. And so, and I didn't know that I could ask more questions, I guess.
Okay. What is your assignment? What's the big vision, the big assignment?
For Moving Day Mafia, the big assignment is to build it into a multi-generational, multi-million-dollar nonprofit, with the Make-A-Wish Foundation kind of being my vision, because I used to be a volunteer for Make-A-Wish, and to make sure that there are mafia chapters on every remaining HBCU campus, and there are 101 left. So my
Okay.
mission is to build that.
Okay. And think about, do you sense that that would take 10 years? Do you think it would take 15, 5? How long do you think ballpark?
I think 10, because if we
Okay.
keep on pace with the growth that we're experiencing and the momentum of even
Uh-huh.
the HBCU community, getting on board with this,
Mhm.
because our name is getting out there, it could be 10 or less.
Okay.
And that's when I feel like I've done my job.
Yeah.
And what's
So
next?
so let's fast forward to What's 10 years from now? 2034.
Right.
Okay. Think about who TJ is in 2034.
Mm-hmm.
Does TJ in 2034, how does she show up when somebody sees her on TV and is a family foundation and wants to meet?
Even more bolder than I do now.
Okay. What would
Because
that look like? Bolder.
I don't have a problem saying, okay, you're gonna give us $5 million or what? Like, listen, I don't have time to be messing around with you. We got
Ah.
kids to save. We need $5 million. You know, I think these first 2 years I've been focused on proof of concept. What does
Uh-huh.
this really tangibly look like? And I
Okay.
guess that's why I went into that foundation meeting like, yo, you're gonna give us money? Great, we want it. But I'm not stressed about it, you know? And so I can see, because I'll be 62 in 2034 then.
Mm.
I can see a even more bolder, I don't care. Long as it benefits these kids, I don't want to have conversations for less than $1 million. If I'm on the conversation, it's at least $1 million on the table. Anything beyond below that has to go through my team.
Great. Love it. So then let's start to become that TJ now,
Mhm.
if that's what it's going to take.
Okay.
If that's your assignment and that's your future,
Mhm.
I believe you. Let's
Okay.
take that seriously and work towards becoming, 2% more, 5% more, that bolder TJ. And what does that look like?
Mhm.
And then the next thing I would say is, as you're becoming more visible and you're having these opportunities, you're attracting donors, which is everyone's dream.
Mhm. Mhm.
Asking for money does not equal stressed out.
Mhm.
It means intentional. It's like
Right.
what you just said. In 2034, TJ doesn't have time to waste. Are you in or are you out?
Mhm.
She's not stressed either.
Mhm.
She's just really crystal clear.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's it.
Mhm.
What
Mhm.
are you hearing me say?
10x the TJ who's here today.
Love it.
'Cause I'm already bold, and because I speak things into existence. 10 years ago, I started using the hashtag Samsung is my sponsor. They just don't know it yet. Best Buy is
Nice.
the sponsor. They just don't know it yet. And I consistently use that hashtag on social media. And last year, within 2 weeks of each other, they both became Mafia sponsors. So that
Uh,
same level that I operated then, I just need to keep 10xing that. And then
yes.
go into back to the question, go into that meeting not being afraid of, here's the ask. You typically asking questions of, so you typically give away how much to
Mm,
foundations to organizations you support.
mm,
And then going, okay, well, we have a 260K budget to take care of students, 100K budget for a TV show. How much would you like to be a part of making sure that happens? Approaching it more proactively versus reactively to letting them drive the conversation. So did I nail it? Is that what you were basically?
I love it. I love
Okay.
it. I
Okay.
love it.
Okay.
I love it.
Got it.
And you and whoever's on your board of directors, you're going to need to go through the discipline of a strategic planning process and have clear, because I get it. You know how to stretch a dollar.
Mhm.
Um, you know, the question becomes, do you want to continue to do that?
Hell no. No.
Okay. So, and then having some bigger goals.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm sure that you absolutely can do good work for 52 scholars a year with 260. And, if you're talking about all HBCUs in 10 years and a much bigger scale, then I wonder what are all of the ways in which you will need to level up?
I like the way you put that. I like the way you put that because yeah. And okay. The goal, what we're doing for the end of the year is building out a strategic plan, but I like the way you put
Right?
of reverse engineering that. Okay, so
Yes.
it's going to be 10 years, what we need to look like every year of hitting that mark.
Bingo.
Okay,
And giving yourself slack.
right,
It cannot be dollars in, dollars out.
right. That's what I'm learning. I got to say, very honestly, that's what I'm learning, that I got to have money for operations. Right now, we're all volunteers, but we can't be sustainable and scalable. We got to start thinking of operational, salaries. So I'm
Mhm.
with you. I like how you said that. That unlocked a
Mm.
nugget that I got to start at the 10-year mark and work myself backwards. Yeah,
Yes.
got it.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
And another great question in the strategic planning process, this is the last thing I'll say about it, is what would need to be true about Move-In Day Mafia if you were to reach that ultimate impact? What would need to be true? Would you need to have, 3 times the staff? Would you need to be
Oh,
raising, 5 million a year, 10 million a year? What would
okay.
need to be true for that reality to come to pass?
Good questions,
Who
Julie.
would you need on your board?
Yeah,
What how would you like to get there? What kind of model do you want? All these things.
that's good. Thanks for asking that because that's now got me thinking. I know how to think about this now. Yeah, that's
Yes.
good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Take a couple more. How can I help? What are your biggest takeaways from our time together? Put it in the chat. Biggest takeaways. What's one action step that you're going to take? And take a little time to think about it. What's your action step? Make no assumptions, 10x TJ. Yeah. Be aware of my limiting beliefs. That's really good. Any other takeaways? Action step. What's one thing that you're going to commit to doing from our time together? One action step. And if you want to make it even more likely that you would do it, give yourself a deadline. I'm going to do this by this date. This is the action step. And this is when I'm going to do it by. And you can share that in the chat. And if you have a question, we can take more questions.
I have one more question. I don't know if I can.
Sure.
Okay. Um, I have one person that has donated a little bit, but I need to expand out and look for others that are bigger than the $25 we've been getting. But at the same time, I don't know where or how, or I'm starting to learn through what you've taught, how to introduce myself, what I need to focus on, taking pauses, trying to be more authentic, trying to explain the stuff. But how is there like a play? Because you went to a philanthropic event social and found a 25-year-old millionaire. That's not the typical. So I'm trying to, like, when you're starting out, how do you find people if you don't have, you know, a starting point? I don't know if you can answer that here, but
Um, yeah, okay. Denise, it's you, right?
yeah, yeah.
I can't see you for some reason. um, oh, probably because I think your camera was off. Maybe that's why. Hi. Okay, so tell me your title and tell me your organization and just a little brief synopsis of what you do.
Okay, I'm the executive director and I do everything except most of the boots on the ground stuff I leave to the other people in the board because of many reasons, educational, language barriers, etc. So I'm the one in charge of all the other tech stuff and fundraising and talking to people and dealing with everything. And
Okay.
we have 4 hunger relief programs. We fill
What's the
blessing
name of your
boxes.
organization?
Cybus Mission
Cybus Mission. And where are you?
in Maryland.
Okay. And
And
what does your organization do?
well, we have a lot of programs, but the main ones are the hunger relief programs that we do. We fill the blessing boxes. We also help veterans in case there's an emergency, and we provide like pastries for them monthly for a mental health group that they have. I teamed up with another smaller nonprofit, and what we're doing is we're launching a youth urban farm and bike repair program. And I've talked to, I talked to a supermarket and they want to partner with us, and we have 40 bikes that are slightly damaged, but I can talk to bike repair shops around the area. Well, we need a certain amount of money in order to do the construction area, in order for where they're actually going to be learning, where the learning will take place, which is basically structurally looking like a double carport and shed. It's $30,000 to $40,000 that we need, and that's been, I don't know where to I I'm very new as far as, like, TJ is very new in the nonprofit world, but she's very much into the the area of having her network and having people, and I'm not. So I feel like I'm way behind everyone.
How did you become the ED?
Because I founded it. I learned how to do the 501(c)(3) myself
Hmm.
because we couldn't afford um the lawyer fees, and I saw a need in the community and I really wanted to fix it.
Hmm. It's okay.
It's been tough. It's been tough. And I really appreciate your class. And I know I'm over my head when I'm talking with you guys because you're so much further advanced. But
Well,
yeah,
we all start somewhere. Yeah,
thank you.
it's a journey, Denise. Uh, so the stage that you're at, how much money have you raised total?
Ten
Like
thousand
last
dollars.
year? Okay. Where did that come from?
Uh donations.
From
Donations from little donations and fundraising. but selling stuff.
Uh-huh. Okay. And what did that allow you to do?
Pay utilities.
Okay. So how are you doing your hunger program? How is that getting
So
done?
we get a lot of in-kind donations,
Got it.
and we drive around. So we take the stuff over and fill the blessing boxes, and we cook the food, and we give the monthly meals by us doing it. Yeah.
Okay.
So the food we get for free basically. But there's
How did you get that?
transportation costs and utilities and all that stuff. So I talked with all the supermarkets nearby, and I try to get, whatever's about to expire or something. And then there's programs that, well, not there's a like Good 360 that I use, and and with that I've been able to get the stuff.
Okay. And if you don't do that, what happens to people?
Ah, it's harder because there is food deserts here. So we do provide a lot of fresh vegetables. We like that. Bananas, fresh fruits. Um, so they go without, or if they were to try to buy the supermarket that's nearby, it costs at least $2 for a banana or something. It's really expensive. It's
Mhm.
ridiculous. So it's that kind of support that we give them. And with the youth farm thing, I get a chance to teach them why it's so good to have vegetables in their house, why you need onions and stuff to make food tastier and better for them. And that'll make them develop a love for fresher food, better food for them. Yeah.
That's great. Um, so how long have you been the ED?
Since it started in November 2023 was when we got the 501(c)(3. So about a year before that.
Okay. Um, so when you're starting out like that, um, a few things. When I started my business 6 years ago, I didn't have any clients, nobody cared, right? Um, and I quit my job, didn't have anything lined up, and I just emailed everyone that I knew. Literally everyone that I knew. I'm not exaggerating. Every email that I had got an email from me. And I just said, "Hey, I'm starting my own consultancy. This is what I'm doing. This is how much it costs to work with me. Here's a link to pay me if you want to work with me." And some people responded and were like, "Oh, that's amazing. I'm going to send this to somebody." "Oh, I want to work with you." And so I started getting referrals. People just started even knowing that I was doing this. Like, what are you even doing in simple terms? And tell everyone you know. And that was how I started my business. And then people I knew hired me who I would have never thought would have become a client. So we make assumptions about the people we know, and we're often wrong. So, Denise, you have to stop doing that. Okay. And you have to let people help you. And you have to
Okay.
tell
Thank
them,
you.
you have to tell them the help that you need and be really crystal clear about that. You have to get really good. There's a lot of skills associated with this work. There's you have to be a great communicator. You need to be a great storyteller. You need to know how to write really well. And you have to be bold and ask people for money.
Okay.
You were
That's what I'm
bold.
going to do. I'm going to do it.
You were bold and you went to the grocery stores and you asked them for their food. That's a very bold thing to do. There was something in your mind that thought they have extra food. It's easy for them. I'm going to go get it. In what way might you be able to adopt that mindset when it comes to financial support? You cannot say no for people. You cannot do it. And again, the way that I approach fundraising, I'm not chasing rich people who don't care and they're uninterested. I'm looking to partner with people who are generous, whether I perceive them to be rich or poor. Generous people are where it's at. I can tell you that I personally am not an ultra high net worth individual. I do not have a net worth of over 30 million personally yet. Okay. But I know what my clients' donors give. And I've been in major gifts fundraising for 16 years. And I personally outgive a lot of these people who are 200 times wealthier than me. And the average nonprofit will overlook me because I don't show up in a wealth screen. I don't drive a Maserati. I do not own a multi-million-dollar home. And overlooking me for some of them is a mistake that they have been making for years. Because I'm a generous person, Denise. Generous people like you give when times are hard or when they're easy. They give when there's a recession or there's not a recession. Generous people are generous regardless of the weather. If it's a beautiful day outside, if it's storming and raining, they are generous. And Denise, you are not the only one who cares about your community. You're not the only one who's willing to step up. You're not. And some people have money to give, but they do not have time. And you need to realize that that is an easy contribution for them. It doesn't feel easy for you because you're in a different stage of life. You have nothing but time and you have very little funding. And you need to understand that the people who have a lot of funding do not have time. Time is something they cannot get back. Money they make while they're sleeping. And this is, you may feel like you're the only one. You may feel really behind, but I'm telling you that most people who work in the nonprofit space do not come from wealth. So whatever you're feeling about not understanding this, you don't get it, it's very normal. It's okay. So you don't need to judge yourself and beat yourself up that you're not further along than you are. It's okay. You just started. It's all good. You're doing a really beautiful thing for your community. Okay? And the thing that you've got to get better at is inviting people to help you. And being honest and upfront about what the needs are. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't act like this piddly little thing is helpful. No, it ain't. You got to tell them, I need to raise money. The biggest need we have is financial support. And let people know. Let them know they can't read your mind. They can't read your mind. If you act like everything is all peachy keen, don't be surprised when nobody is there to help. Does Superwoman seem like she need help? No, she don't. She's got it covered. You see, this work is about receiving help. It's healthy. And it's a blessing for people to help. Right? It's a blessing for you to do this work. And it's a blessing for people to join you. And you got to just be okay with doing it awkward, doing it clumsy, doing it and you don't know what you're doing. None of us know what we're doing. It's okay. It's all good. We're all figuring it out. This is a journey. We're all figuring it out. And so let yourself fail forward. Let yourself go for it. Just get used to apologizing. It's all good. Just if somebody is like, oh, be like, I'm sorry. Honestly, I'm trying to figure out how to do this. Thank you for your grace. Thank you for your patience. You know, people are so much more forgiving than we think. And there's a lot of respect on somebody stepping into the arena and going for it. There is a lot of respect for that. And people with financial means will respect that. They aren't going to look down on you. When we pretend like we don't have needs, we're like, oh, this person, they're not serious yet. Okay. Got it. They're still playing games. Because somebody who's built something, they understand. You got to go for it. Somebody who's built something, they know. They're like, yeah, you got to go get the money. You got to go get it. There's people who will help you, but you got to be clear about how they can help. And you got to ask because they can't read your mind. And especially if you come across real professional and like you got this and everything is hunky dory and you're happy. And you have to allow yourself to be seen. Is this resonating with you, Denise?
Oh, yes, very much so. And I want to say thank you for your patience and thank you for your grace. And yes, I will work on it. I promise you. That's going to be my mission, to do the emails and send out to everyone.
Yeah. That's great. That's a great next step. Absolutely. I love it. Go for it. Hi, Georgia. Hi, how you doing? Thanks for joining. It's a little intimate crew now here. We had, I'm going kind of long, I guess, because I'm answering questions. Yeah, and I'm just taking questions and trying to be as helpful as I can. Do you want to practice your pitch, Georgia, or how can I support you?
Yeah, this is great. I was hoping I could like pop on for some part of this and hear and learn from everybody else. And if there was time for me, yeah, absolutely.
Woohoo! Oh, great. So here's how it's going. So you'll just share your name, title, your organization, just a brief synopsis of what your organization does. And then you can share one particular donor scenario, a little bit of background, how do you know them? What's their profession? Maybe what they've given previously. And then whenever you're ready, you can kind of role play your pitch or your ask to this particular donor scenario. So
Perfect.
Yeah, that's how we're doing it.
Okay. So let's see which screen. Too many screens. Okay. So my name is Georgia Close. I will change the title of my Zoom here. to be the most professional that I can be. And my title is Director of Development here at Free Wheelchair Mission. And what we do is design, engineer, and manufacture really rugged wheelchairs for the developing parts of our world. You probably can hear the test track in the background because I'm in the office and there's a bunch of us, and that giant piece of wheelchair braking equipment is in here running. So I apologize for that.
Cool.
But why we do that is the most important reason. So the World Health Organization has identified that there's 80 million people in our globe on Earth that need a wheelchair and can't afford one, and they don't have the means to get one, whether that's their country doesn't make them or they can't afford them. So what we find is a lot of people living on the ground and just trying to get by. Some of them are adults, some children, some of them very capable, talented people, and others, with extreme disabilities. So we see a lot, but that's why we do it. And for us, it costs $96 to get one of those wheelchairs to them. So that's what Free Wheelchair Mission does. A little bit of background on this couple. They have been with us for a long time. They've been around Free Wheelchair Mission in one way or another for probably about 15 of our 23 years.
Wow.
So they're not actually major donors, but they are very high level mid-tier donors, and they could be major donors at some point. Absolutely. But they do support a lot of different organizations, and most of my relationship has been with the husband, and his name is Greg. So he is he's a leader at one of the Christian business owner groups in Orange County. And so he knows a lot of different high net worth business owners in essence, and is the CEO of the company, but he helps them form their group and inform some of the curriculum and things like that. So he's definitely our kind of people. Like, he's a strong believer. He's a great PR type person. So he's been in sales in his previous career and really, gets it. There's no pitching him. He's just like, give me the facts. And the biggest gift they've ever made is $5,000. That was a couple years back. They've had a little bit of family things here and there, and have certainly been pulled at by a lot of different organizations. So let's see, anything else that would be helpful? I mean, we're on kind of a text call email basis. He'll pick up the phone. I just need to make sure I do my due diligence to get in front of them. And I have asked recently to be able to meet him and his wife in person to talk about this. So I guess that's where I'll end it, and I will start my pitch.
Oh, great.
Okay. All right. So here is what I would say to Greg and Shelly, assuming I could get them in the same room together. So, I know you guys know Free Wheelchair Mission very well. You've been around for a long time over the years as we've grown, and you've seen Dawn grow. You've seen our wheelchairs change. You've been on a trip where you've actually put together these wheelchairs. You have met some of the families who they benefit. So I know you guys understand the value of it, and I know I don't need to convince you of that. What I would like to talk about is not just, I don't know if we should say names, but the business you work for, because there is fundraising that happens through his business. But what I'd love to talk about is just your giving, you as a couple, you as a family, because I also know you really love what we've done. So every year that you come to Miracle, to our big fundraising event, I know you've given about a $5,000 gift and have supported us in that way many, many times. But I really don't want the event to stand in our way of you guys making that change. And I know you've seen it. I know you've done it. I know you've been out there in the field. So I kind of want to ask you for something different, and it's more of a two-part ask. So bear with me. But the first part come December, so next month, when everyone starts to think about end of year giving, would you guys consider making that typical $5,000 gift? Since you weren't able to make it to the Miracle of Mobility event this year. And the other part of this is a little different. I've never asked you this before, but one of the best things that anybody can do for us is help us with automated giving, monthly giving in essence. So that allows us obviously to plan better with our partners and share with them how many wheelchairs we're going to be able to send and when, because our revenue is a little bit more consistent. And maybe the best part of this is if this is good for you guys, then you get to avoid me asking you every year, but would you consider starting in January after that $5,000 gift, a $1,000 monthly gift through your donor advised fund?
All right, give it up for Georgia. Woohoo. So give yourself feedback. How do you think you did? What do you think you did well, Georgia?
Gosh. I mean, I think I still get nervous in front of donors, you know, no matter how many years I've done this, I still get nervous in front of donors. So probably, I mean, I think one thing that I did well is be very specific with amounts, because Greg is definitely a salesman himself. He's one of those guys that's like, sure, I'll give you $10,000, but I'm going to fundraise it, or I'm going to get this person to give it. So it has been a little confusing in the past. So with him, I know I need to be very specific to him personally and exact amounts with times. So that I think I did well. Probably could take a little bit, some more pauses between things before getting to the actual two-part ask. So that if he wants to share any part of his remembering those trips or his like tactile work with the wheelchair, the stories, the people he remembers, I could get that passion out of him before making the ask.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else? Any other feedback for yourself?
Probably take a few more deep breaths.
Oh, that's good. I like that. Okay. Great. Folks in the chat, you can weigh in what you appreciated or learned or noticed about Georgia's pitch. I love how she talks about how invested the donors are by talking about their past involvement. Yeah, that's great. Great. I love it. So, you're so personable. You know, you're just so, it's so easy to listen to you. You don't put any stress on me. I could listen to you talk about this for like a long time.
Oh, well, maybe I should pitch you, Julie. I heard other people using your name in round one there, so
Yeah, they were. They were like, I'm pitching Julie. Yeah, I like how you talked about, you know, you started out with them and like sort of recap their history, right? Of the involvement. You said, I know you understand the value. And I was like, yeah, I think they understand the value, but it's really like a more powerful way to say that might be you've seen the life change firsthand.
Mm. Okay.
And that may have the effect that you're hoping to have, which is recalling their own experiences, right? Being in the field and going on these trips. That's great. And to your point, I think maybe you could take a moment to pause then. Right. I know, you know, you've been here, you did this. I know that you've seen the life change personally. Pause.
Mhm.
Right? And then see what they say. They're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that trip was that blew my mind." And "Oh, that was when I really knew that you guys were the best." And whatever they're going to say, right? I like how you really gave a good preface. You were like, "I want to talk about your giving as a family." It's actually like a two-part ask.
Mhm.
I thought that was great. I liked that. I was like, "Oh, you're really preparing me for what's coming." Okay, great. I'm with you. I'm tracking, right? Um, you said, "I know you weren't able to make it to Miracle of Mobility, so I'd love for you to give your typical 5K." Didn't really feel like typical. It's not really a great word. I'd be like, um, you know, you could say, "I know last year you gave 5K at the gala and you weren't able to make it this year. I'm hoping that you'll consider giving 5K again this year." If they're really, I mean, I don't know. It makes sense that they might actually be ready to give significantly more, especially given that they've been giving for 15 years.
Mhm.
So maybe let's workshop the ask amount there. Would they consider giving 10,000? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like you're obviously you have so much trust and credibility and history. They've seen so much firsthand. You're not really gonna lose anything by asking for more. They'll just tell
Right.
you, "Oh yeah, we can't do that, but we could probably do 8," or whatever they're gonna say. I don't know.
Yeah.
We can talk more about that. But
Okay.
and then you said automated giving that allows us to, I like the part about saying, this allows us to plan with our partners and to be able to know how many wheelchairs we're needing to manufacture and blah. I liked that you explained the why. I would love to kind of tie that back in to this couple and say, you know, there is like such a loyalty and dedication that you've had in your giving with us. And I wanted to share the kind of giving that may be a good fit for you. And I know that you care about our sustainability and our ability to do our work in a way that is really efficient and that makes sense for us. And that way is becoming a monthly supporter or, talking about naming your specific program, right? What is it called again?
Mobilize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would call it that rather than saying do
Okay.
automated giving.
Got it.
Right. And then you said, and this may be good for you because then you can avoid me asking every year. Georgia.
I mean, I thought that was funny. It's not funny. They wouldn't laugh and go,
I mean, I can't. I don't know. I guess it depends on the donor
yeah.
and your relationship with them. You know them. I don't. So I mean, but I was like, but I like talking to you. Like I was not.
Oh boy. I will see him every year actually at this thing we do together, but I wouldn't
Like, I don't
not follow up with them or like do stewardship anymore. I just
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. I think that it's sort of like extending the benefit of the doubt. Like, I know that you would want to give in the way that's most beneficial for us, and I think this would also be beneficial for you.
I like that.
That's why I'm asking you to consider giving starting, and I love you said starting in January, $1,000 a month gift. I think that's great. Why not?
Okay.
If it's from their donor advised, if they have a donor advised fund, um, there's likely a lot more money there, Georgia. So
Yeah.
You
I
know,
think
this
there
may
I
be
think
one
there
of
is too.
yeah, this may be one of those moments where you're having a real direct conversation where you're like, "Look, you've been supporting us for 15 years.
Mhm.
You're all in, right?" And they're like, "Yeah, we're all in, Georgia. We think you guys are amazing."
Mhm.
Yeah, so these are our
Mm, I like
goals. This is how much money we need to raise. What is the best gift that you could give towards these goals? These people are generous and they really care. So if we position the ask as we're looking to raise, 12 million, and this is how much we have raised towards the 12 million. We've already raised, 4.8 or whatever it is.
Oh, very much.
You know, how what's the what's
That's like for me going on trips.
what's an amount that would make sense for you, right? Or what's the very best that you could give towards these goals? And then see kind of leave it open-ended because they know you and because there is this history. And maybe they could say, "Oh, well, maybe we could do 50,000." Who knows what they're going to say because they have this donor advised fund. If they have a donor advised fund, they don't need to be a monthly donor. They could just give the 12K up front in January because it's money that's already sitting there.
I see. Yeah. Yeah. And so instead of, I like having people on monthly gifts because then year 2, they kind of set it and forget it. And then they come to events if they do, and then they kind of give above and beyond. But yeah, that other angle is really good because then, like it's open-ended. I'm not deciding that for them. And I'd be really curious to see, what would they come back with.
I'd be curious too.
I know they support a lot of different organizations, but and I'm not exactly sure where Free Wheelchair Mission falls.
Yeah,
in and
so I would
of-
find out, "Hey, I know you've been supporting us for 15 years. I know you also give to lots of other places. Where do we sit in your philanthropic priorities?"
Yeah, it's a great question to ask them.
And then find out, and then they'll be like, "Oh, you're number 2," or whatever, right? Or
Yeah.
whatever they're gonna say, I don't know. They might say
Yeah.
that you're the favorite. They might say, "You're our top priority." I had a client, the other day, someone said that to them, "You're our top priority." And then they go, "Oh, that's amazing. So then what is the top gift that you could give for a top priority organization?"
Mhm.
And they're like, "Oh, well, 250, 300,000. I don't think my client would have even known to ask for that.
Really? Wow.
So finding
Yeah.
out, I think leaving it open-ended, particularly with donors who you perceive to be really generous, there's loyalty there. We don't really know what their capacity is. Like, "Hey, these are the goals. This is what we need to raise. This is how much we've raised so far. So here's the gap. What's the best gift that you could give towards that?" And they'll tell you because you have that relationship. They know that you're not just in it for the money. This is about creating greater impact that they're really bought into. And they could say, "Oh, Georgia, we're going to pray about it. We're going to think about it and we'll come back to you." Great. When's a good time for me to follow up? And then you follow up with them in a week or 2 weeks and see what they say.
Got it. Yeah, I can think of a couple other donors who are pretty big question marks to me on their actual capacity. That I could that's a conversation that I would be really excited to have with them. Like, here's our goals. Here's where we're at. Like, what's the best gift you could give towards it?
Yeah.
That's conversation for a couple other people I could think of too.
That's great. I love it. Is this helpful? Do you have any other questions or thoughts?
Mhm.
So sorry, that took longer than I expected. I did. It's totally fine.
I guess I'm curious because I was watching a little bit of the part 2 that you had done this morning. When people pitch their organization, like when they give their 30-second elevator speech, what have you seen that's been the most powerful hook? Some of the more powerful hooks that really get people interested right away in the work that's being done.
I think that a lot of people don't understand the scale of the problem that you're solving, and then the credibility that you have in how you've made a dent in the problem. So, obviously for a free wheelchair mission, right? You talked about 80 million,
Mhm.
and then it costs $96. What may be really great in the hook is, and we've delivered this many wheelchairs over the last X number of years, right? In our lifetime of existing.
Oh, I like that. We don't do that very often.
So yeah, this is the problem. And then it's like immediately hope, right? Here's the hope. The hope is that we have actually done something about it. And we've delivered this many wheelchairs, and then we're not done yet. Moving forward, our big goal is by this date to have this many wheelchairs delivered.
Got it. Yeah. We've not had that big goal conversation with anyone. Like in 2035, we want to be here. Okay.
Because then you're positioning your organization as the one who's doing something about it, and you're effective at what you do. There's a track record, there's a history of solving it at a large scale. And that way, this 2035 goal doesn't seem that crazy. And it's actually exciting. And then it makes sense why you would need to ask for a multi-year commitment. It would make sense why you would need to ask for 6 figures. It's kind of dwarfed by the positioning of that big goal. And they're like, oh, yeah, it makes sense why you would want to ask me for $30,000 over 3 years or whatever it is to reach that impact goal.
Sometimes we hear that for our donors with like the 80 million, the big need is a little daunting. Like they want something that's more bite size where they can feel like, well, how can I make a difference for 80 million people? That's millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. How could I possibly feel good about a gift that could help that? Do you feel like you've seen and heard like an attractiveness towards the more bite-sized goals versus the big ones, or the big vision type thing, or just different donor, different conversation?
Yeah, so a few things about that. As you grow, your some of your donors who were there from the beginning and loved it, they were sort of like a big fish in a little pond. And they loved that stage, like just because they like it. It's kind of like, why do you like pickles? Because you just like them. There's no rational reason why you prefer whatever ice cream you prefer. You just like it. Some donors, they just like the startup earlier times. And some donors really love bold goals because they're a bold person. And so not every donor is going to go with you into the future. We would love for them to, but not everybody is going to be retained because they're just not that kind of person. And, and so part of it is letting go the bold goals. You also attract more donors who are really bold. But in terms of people understanding their impact, as the organization gets larger, the impact gets larger. So they're not a part of something that's less impactful. They're a part of something that's even more impactful. So it's like being like, if you're a Lakers fan or a Clippers fan and they go to the championship, like, it's not like you become more insignificant as a fan because there's more fans and because the franchise is winning. Like, Free Wheelchair Mission is a winning team. So it's not like, and it's our job to be able to tell the story of one, right? Like, and you could incorporate that. And you kind of touch on it when you say, like, you've personally experienced this going into the field and helping build a wheelchair or repair it or whatever the story was. And you know, these are real human beings' lives. And connecting is like, how does anybody know that the difference that they're making is actually working, whether they gave $20 or 20,000? How does anybody know they're making it? Because we tell them the story of the people. Like, you know, it's like that remains the same. And then also, just some people, they're not going to love the fact that they're just like a donor that's in a sea of donors. Some people are going to love that. They're going to be like, wow, Free Wheelchair Mission is amazing. Like, right? It's like some people like mustard on their hot dog and some people don't. What can we do about it? Nothing. Yes, we want to be able to retain as many donors as we can, but we're not going to really, like, as you grow, some people are going to be like, this is nuts, I'm out. And some people are going to be like, wow, they're really going for it. I love that. And the more authentic we are and the more we own our goals and, frankly, the type of organization we are, we're not a little tiny startup nonprofit anymore. We're not. We are growing past that phase and owning who we are. And as a result, we attract even more people who want to be on that team. And it becomes clear who's on board and who isn't. And as you grow, that's just the part of growth. It's the same thing with our staff. Some people are not going to want to be on the hook for more money and more responsibility. They're going to want to leave and go be a part of a smaller team that has a different job because that's their preference. Not because because there's anything wrong with Free Wheelchair Mission. It's just some people are not going to want to get on the rocket ship and go to the moon. Some people are going to want to stay on Earth. That's okay. That's okay. There's no value judgment on any of it. It's just like, this is the type of organization that we are moving forward. And we're looking for people to go there with us. And we're still going to have that impact of changing lives. Is this helpful?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. This is great market research.
Oh, good. Yeah, great.
Thank
Amazing.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'll wrap us up. You'll also get this recording. Thank you so much for joining me and for your great questions. And I really appreciate it.
Thanks,
This was
Julie.
great. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.